Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in and watching this. My name is Gabriela Dominguez, and I am the Public Information Officer for Miami-Dade Animal Services. And I'm here today with a very special guest, which is the new Assistant Director of Miami-Dade County Animal Services, specifically over the Enforcement Division. We have Gilda Nuñez here. So, Gilda, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you're going to do great, as you've already been in practice for some time. Enforcement is very lucky to have you. And as you guys know from previous recordings, I've been in enforcement. So I'm here to help guide Gilda along the way sometimes when she needs my help. But Gilda, just tell us, before we get started on, the topics of today, just tell us how long you've been with the county and how you came to land in this position that you just got.
So sure, I've been with Miami-Dade County for 29 years now.
Wow.
I started at the Public Works Department. I was there for about 17 years. Then I came over to Animal Services, and I've been there since. I've evolved from many roles as, first the assistant to the director. Then I moved to facilities, procurement, chief of over several sections, including communications. Most recently, I was placed as interim assistant director for enforcement while maintaining my legislative affairs and communications duties as well. So now I am the assistant director for humane law enforcement, legislative affairs, and communications.
It's a lot under your belt, but we know you can handle it. And as always, you have me, you have also support from the team, and we know you're going to do great.
Thank you.
Again, before we get started, also, I forgot to introduce Grace, who's been doing a whole bunch of stuff here in front of us as we've been talking. Grace, come here. Turn around. Let me see anything on your face. Here we go. You can see her better there. So Grace is around 5 years. Okay, here she comes. Okay.
Come on, Grace. Come here,
Right.
Grace.
So Grace is around 5 years old. She has been in our shelter since September or August of last year. She is so sweet, and we're so sad that she's still here because she is a great dog. She loves other dogs, little and small. The only thing that she's not a fan of is cats, so unfortunately she wouldn't be able to go to a home with cats, but she's great with people. And she's just been there. She's been overlooked a few times, and we don't know why, because she is a total love bug, a total sweetheart.
It is so sweet.
So we're hoping that with upcoming events that we have going on, which we'll touch base before we close out, that she'll be able to find a home soon. But let's get into what we're here for today. So first and foremost, I want to discuss great news that we have from Miami-Dade Animal Services, that we recently surpassed the save rate benchmark.
We sure did.
So can you tell us a little more about that? What does that mean? And how did Animal Services achieve that?
Sure. So, Animal Services first achieved their 90% save rate in 2015. So we've been at it for a few years now.
Okay, so 9 years.
Yeah, 9 years.
Okay.
Exactly. And it's a bunch of different programs that help us achieve that, as well as the community adopting, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of our key factors. That's one of the biggest things that we promote.
Right.
Taking a great new friend or family member home, such as Grace, which will do great in a home setting. That helps us a lot with our save rate. We have different programs to assist us do this, such as transports.
Right.
We do a lot of fostering to get pets ready, socialized in a different home, setting outside of the shelter,
Right.
so that they become more adoptable.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We do a lot of adoption events throughout the community. So we have mobile adoption events. We partner with different organizations to help us move along.
Putting the brakes
as
on.
well. So yeah, we have different things that we have in place that help us. Unfortunately, there's always those cases that, the dog comes severely injured, right, or is severely aggressive, and there's no rehabilitating him. Mm-hmm. So those obviously are humanely euthanized.
Right. So just to get a little bit understanding, because I know that there's a big misconception out in the community that we are a kill shelter. This save rate means that we achieved that, and we are a no-kill shelter, and we've been a no-kill shelter, like you mentioned, for 9 years.
Correct.
And that has to do with being over 90%. And we actually reached like what?
92%.
Okay. So
Last
we're
year,
over,
2023.
obviously that means that we were over the benchmark, and we were able to achieve that. And that's what that means for those of you watching, that, you know, I know that the community thinks as animal services is a high kill shelter, and it's actually the opposite. We actually saved 92% of the animals that come in through our care. And like Gilda mentioned, the ones that unfortunately cannot make it out is for those reasons, that they are ill or injured to the point that the pet is suffering, or that is a severe case of aggression, and it is a public threat to put that animal out into the community. So that's amazing. I want to talk more a little bit. You mentioned the mobile adoption events and stuff like that out into the community. So we have a whole events team dedicated to going to, I guess, setting up these events, and going out into the community. And how does that help with the save rate specifically, and like getting animals into homes?
Well, I think it's good because it puts us out in the community. People see us, they're aware that we're here. They might see a dog that they're interested in. Then it's word of mouth. You know, they adopt a great dog, they take it home, their friends come over. They're like, oh my God, this dog I adopted it at Animal Services, Miami-Dade County Animal Services. And word gets around, and then that's how we get our customers. You know, there's a lot of animal lovers out there that really don't think sometimes of just adopting a great animal from us. They sometimes, unfortunately, resort to pet stores.
Right.
And, you know, besides the fact that they're very expensive at pet stores,
True.
You can get the same loving animal at the shelter.
So it's more about just bringing out the animals into the community and just making
them visible.
And making the community aware that we exist. We're an entity where you can come and get a dog if you're looking for a dog.
Correct.
So that's amazing.
A dog or a cat.
Or a cat. That's true. Yes. But we do have more need for dogs. Just
large dogs.
Large dogs, like Grace specifically. Yes. So if you're watching and you're interested, or if you know somebody that's interested, or even know somebody that even just likes animals, just share this with them, please, so that we can try and find as many homes for our pet as possible. I know that we kind of sound like a little broken wheel saying it over and over again, but we just have a lot of animals in our care, and we do our very best, like with the programs she mentioned, to try and get them into loving homes. But again, we could always use the community's help. So before we move on to the next topic, I also want to mention that another thing that contributes to the save rate is the various programs and partnerships that we offer that support pet owners in the community, such as spay neuter and pet retention. Can you give us a little more information on that?
Sure. We do offer low-cost spay neuter surgeries, which is a great way, you know, to have your animal sterilized, to kind of control, you know, unwanted litters and such. And also we do low-cost vaccinations, which is great for, you know, for those that want to keep their pets healthy, but, you know, financially it's a little situation for them. But besides that, I mean, we do offer other services. For instance, if you find yourself in a situation where you're experiencing difficulty providing medical care for your animal, you can always reach out to us, and we will try to assist as best we can. You know, we do, like I said, we do receive grant funds that we can sometimes use for this. We do partner with other veterinarians, other organizations that assist us with this. We receive donations for food. Sometimes we can assist with food, with supplies. You need a crate, if you need bedding, anything to help you keep your animals safe and you know, and healthy, we are there to help. Right.
That's awesome. And that you mentioned about dog food and the supplies, we also help the community. Let's say if they find an animal, a stray animal, and they're, you know, most people think to just bring it straight to animal services, when oftentimes the animal is best left in the same neighborhood where it was found, because oftentimes they're not really stray. They just may have gotten out, or their owner may have left them out. And their best chance of being reunited with their families is by staying at home. But a lot of times people are like, well, I have my dogs, I can't care for my dogs. But yet we still offer these same, I guess, support if you were to find a stray animal, so that we can try to keep it within the same neighborhood. So if you found a dog and you have at least a space to keep it in your home, like you have a large yard where you can keep the pet outside, we can offer you food. We can offer you different resources. A kennel, a crate. Yeah, we can offer you different things to try and maintain that animal for as long as possible within the same neighborhood to try and reunite it with the owner, or if you could find a new home for it so that you don't have to necessarily bring it into the shelter if you don't have to, because as you know, we don't have any space.
Well, and besides the space, the shelter is really not the best place for any animal.
Absolutely.
Especially when it's an animal that's been accustomed to being in a home.
Right.
When you bring them into the shelter setting, there's a lot of animals there.
Yeah.
And they're, they get stressed out. The animals bark every time they
can get sick too.
They can get sick because, they do get other
canine
diseases.
Illnesses that spread.
So really the best place to keep a dog is
in a home.
In a home within their neighborhood. And eventually, if you post it on the apps and stuff like that, next door, or
post
ring,
flyers,
whatever,
anything.
Post flyers, the owner might turn up, and it's the best outcome for the animal.
Right.
So again, a lot of these animals come in.
Bless you.
They don't have a microchip, which microchipping is a big
and that's something also that we offer low cost as well.
It is. We do offer it low cost. It's only $15 to get your pet microchipped, and it's a great way for us to identify him and get him back home.
Right.
So a lot of these dogs come in without collars, without tags, without microchip, without any indication of where they're from.
Right.
And, we keep them at the shelter. After 3 days, they can be adopted to anyone.
Right.
So, obviously we promote microchipping your pet, keeping an identification on it, so that ideally the best option is always to return your pet to their home.
Right.
So, and that's our goal, to
Exactly.
reunite our animals with their pet.
Well, our goal is to have every pet that we have in our care in a loving home.
In a loving home. Exactly.
So that ultimately relies also on the community to try and get to try and help us to get as many animals as possible into loving homes. All right, so let's move on. I don't know if you're aware, but March is Pet Poison Prevention Month. So I want to talk about that a little bit more, because I think that a lot of people have pets, but a lot of people aren't aware of things that are poisonous to them and what the signs a pet exhibits when they have been poisoned. So I want to discuss that a little bit more. Like, what are some common household items or substances that pose a risk to pets, and how can pet owners effectively safeguard their homes?
So there's a lot of things that are poisonous to our animals, and we don't even know it.
Right.
Sometimes we keep them in our purse, and animals get into our purses, right?
Yes.
So something basic as a chocolate bar or gum. Is a big one. Cleaning supplies.
Yeah.
There's certain fruits that are not good for animals as well.
Certain foods in general, that we eat, but it's not good for them.
And sometimes, yes, we have our pets that come and beg us when they see us eating, and we're like, oh, a little piece isn't going to hurt them, but it just might. And then you have the symptoms, which are vomiting, they get lethargic, they're down, they're just, you can tell when your pet is not feeling well.
Right.
And you might not associate it to that little piece of fruit that you gave him, that you thought was going to be healthy for him because it's a fruit, but in fact, it's not good for them.
It's very harmful to them,
Very harmful.
So what should a pet parent do if they feel like their pet has ingested something that may be poisonous and they start experiencing these symptoms? Like, what's the number one thing that they have to do?
They need to call their vet. They need to call their vet right away. They need to make sure that they get them to the vet office. I mean, sometimes if you call your vet office, they'll tell you things, home remedies that you can do.
Right. Or even like how to induce vomiting or something like that.
Correct. There's certain ways that you can do at home.
Right.
But if, the first step is to call your veterinary.
Right. Ultimately, call your vet. They're the professionals. Yes. They're the ones that are going to be able to help,
and guide you through the process of.
Right. I think a lot of times people, especially like in my family, like the Hispanic community tries to do their own home remedies and try to do their own thing to try and help the animal. And that can actually be even more harmful. So just make sure that you seek guidance from a professional, from a veterinarian, to just make sure that your pet is okay. And hopefully it is. So hopefully it's something very mild that can be treated right away. But of course, it could be fatal if not treated as well.
Yeah, and it depends on the consumption, the amount that they consume.
Right.
And depending on the size of the animal as well.
Right, exactly. Like Grace, if she ate something fairly small, it may not affect her as much as a little dog eating the same portion. It could be a lot worse for them. So that's great. Just keep in mind those tips that we're just giving you right now to avoid any incidents and accidents. Make sure that you lock, cleaning supplies. Just like how you child-proof your home, you have to dog-proof or pet-proof your home as well. Remember, they're very curious. They can get into anything, and
they smell everything.
And they smell everything. They can.
The good stuff, the chocolate.
They'll sniff it out. They're very creative in the sense of how they can get into things, and you just don't want that accident to happen, and a very potentially expensive vet bill as well. So just keep that in mind. Another thing I want to talk about is, this, I don't know if it's so much of an increase. I just think it's something that happens frequently, especially here in our community in Miami-Dade. We are very pet friendly. We have lots of animals that live here in the community with our nearly 3 million residents. So it's something that is frequently happening, and that's dog bites. So I wanted to touch base on that, and specifically, like, what are some key factors that contribute to dog bites, and how can pet owners recognize and address like these potential triggers on their own pets?
Well, when you have a pet, you get to know your pet, and you can tell by their body language sometimes. If they see a cat walking on your fence, how they stand and they look at the cat.
Right.
And, obviously most dogs run up, they start barking at the cat, trying to, it's common, but it's not something that we want to promote. So we try to train our pets to be friendlier and more sociable with other animals. Sometimes we are successful at that. But unfortunately, some dogs, they're harder to train. And so I think whenever you're in a public place, or even at home, let's say you have family members coming over, little kids, maybe your dog is not used to having little kids around because you don't have little kids. So put your dog away, put her in a room. We need to try to prevent incidents that could occur. Right. And I'm not saying it will, but we can prevent them, right? Right. Kids are kids. They don't know. They see a dog. They might think they're playing with the dog or being nice to the dog. And it tugs on its ear. The dog has an ear infection, and there we have it.
It's just a reaction.
It's a reaction. It's a normal reaction for an animal. They can't tell you when something bothers them. They
of course.
They can't tell you.
That's how they're telling you.
Right. With a bite. So
with a bite.
At that point, it's too late.
It is.
So that's why I always suggest that, whenever you have people that are not normally in your home, put your dog away. You can crate him. You can just put him in your room and close the door. And that way, everyone's safe. The dog is safe from the kids, and the kids are safe from the dog. Right. So also, another thing, if you're in a public place, always be mindful of your surroundings. Try to keep your dog away from other animals. You never know how a pet is going to react. You just don't. Their behavior is sometimes very unpredictable, and
of course, they're animals.
They're animals. They might see a little dog and think it's a stuffed animal, unfortunately, that they play with.
And those are usually the ones that don't like to be.
Right. So, we need to just be mindful of your surroundings. If you see a dog coming towards you and you have your pet, redirect. Cross the street, walk on the other side of the sidewalk. There's so many things that we can do to prevent these incidents. Right. And we should try to always be mindful of our surroundings and our dog's behavior as well.
Right. Yeah. So not only is you as a pet owner learning to understand your pet is important, but it's also about being aware, like you mentioned, being out in the community. Like if you're walking the dog in your neighborhood, there's obviously other pets that probably live in your neighborhood. So just be aware, don't be on your phone, don't be distracted, don't be talking to the neighbor, focus on your pet and your surroundings to make sure that your pet is safe and you're being safe as well. Because, oftentimes, like we mentioned, some people either some dogs get loose or some other animals or the owners let them out on their own, and maybe your pet has a trigger with cats like you mentioned. So it's just a bunch of different things that could happen, so you just want to be aware of your pet. But it also helps to socialize your pet and train your pet so that your pet can be a good citizen as well and is not let's say a target in a case like this where they're the ones that may have caused an accident or bitten somebody, because you don't want to go through that either. It's not fun to have to quarantine your pet and then potentially be subject of an investigation with your pet, because that could lead to potential fines. And I'm sure you're now more aware of that since you're in the enforcement role. Yeah. How complicated and even stressful for both parties, the person or the owner of the animal that was attacked, as well as the owner of the animal that was involved in the attack.
I mean, it's a no-win situation. And it all boils down to, owner responsible.
It's responsible ownership. Right. Exactly.
And so the owner's responsibility is to keep, like you said, their pet safe as well as
other pet safe.
And anytime there's an incident like this, no one wins. The pet owner doesn't win. The animal doesn't win. The victim doesn't win. Yeah, it's a sad situation for everyone. Yeah. Sometimes it's a child that gets bit. Right. And
it's usually a worse situation for the pet itself, because ultimately the pet pays the price, even if it was the owner's lack of responsibility. And it is really sad to see, especially when the pet has never had an incident before, until it has an incident. And it's just very important for owners to recognize that. So I also want to touch base on I know that dogs usually give off signs, and their body language changes, when they feel uncomfortable in a setting, when they're scared, and that usually are the signs that they give off right before. It's almost like a warning before it's like, hey, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like this. Before
Grace
they
obviously doesn't feel that way.
No, she's
this
chilling.
Is a perfect example of a dog that's very relaxed and very calm. And she's comfortable.
She's very comfortable. But like we discussed, she doesn't like cats, so we do have to be very wary when we're walking her, because I'm small. She's a powerful dog. She's a big girl. And I just have to be very aware. I hang on to this leash when I'm walking her, just to make sure that, she doesn't see a cat or something I don't see in the bush and, yanks me across the street. But can you tell us a little bit more on the behaviors or the signs that dogs can give off before they're about to attack or bite per se?
I think the first thing that you can is that they kind of tense up. You see them, their body language, they stiffen up, their ears are more, they're
alert.
They're alert. Sometimes their tail is also, when they're scared, their tail goes between their legs. Well,
their tail stands up.
It stiffens up.
Exactly.
And we even have dogs that their hairs behind
the hackles.
They stand up. So there's a lot of things, and obviously maybe you're walking a dog that you're not familiar with.
Right.
So those are things that you can look for, because it's a clear sign. And if you're walking a dog, like we have many, volunteers that help us walk our animals at the shelter.
Right.
We train them to look for these things, and by the way, there is a way to hold the leash properly.
Of course.
To ensure that the dog is more secure, you're more secure, it keeps everybody safe.
Like this.
Gabi can demonstrate the way that the leash should be held. So that all those things are very important, to keep the animals safe, and as well as the other animals are near the area.
Right. Yeah. So like you mentioned, stiffening up is definitely one of them. Growling is another one. Yes. Sometimes giving the whale eye, which is when you see the whites of the eye.
Side eye.
The side eye. Yeah, that's what we call it. The side eye. The side eye. The side eye is also very important. And usually all of those signs are given off before they actually land the bite. And they may be very quickly, and somebody may not notice it right away. But trust me, there are signs. If you know your pet, you know that they will slowly show the signs. But sometimes it can happen in an instant, especially if it's something that happens suddenly.
Or reactive, something.
Or reactive, yeah. Something, it's like you mentioned, if they have an ear infection or something and something touches their ear, they're obviously going to be uncomfortable with it. It's like if somebody poked you on a bruise or something and you're like, ow, like, what was that? Like their reaction isn't to say, ow, their reaction is be like, what was that? Like, I'm scared. Let me protect myself. Yeah. So it's very important to understand those signs as a dog owner. and even not as a dog owner, like you mentioned, as a dog walker, or any interactions that you're going to have with a pet, even if you don't have pets yourself and you're visiting family that has a pet, understand these signs. We mentioned that it's important, like if you have guests over, to put your dog away, especially if they're not familiar with them, even though you may have the friendliest dog in the world. But a person should also be aware of those signs. Oh, and then the leash trick. I'm sorry. This is how we walk dogs at the shelter. We wrap the loop around our hands, and then we wrap it over here on this hand, just to have better control of the dog, so that she doesn't yank me around. But back to what I was saying, it's also important, even if you don't have pets, but you like animals, you see a dog on your morning walk to get your coffee or something, you want to pet it, always be sure to ask. Don't just randomly go up to pet a dog. It's very... you don't know. Never do that. Yeah.
Always ask the owner if
it's okay.
And even then, I caution, because
use caution,
because the owner may say, yes, he's super friendly, but the dog doesn't really know you, and
they could still be very wary of you.
And never ever put your face in front of another dog's face.
Never do that. Never do that. Remember, they have teeth. And even if they don't want to, they could even if they're actually really friendly, even when you like bend down in front of their face, sometimes they can be a little bit like,
they get too overly excited.
Yeah, and they can just nip you. And you don't want that to happen. But yeah, that's very important, and it's important to teach kids that, because I think kids love, to run up on dogs. They don't know. They're innocent, of course, but it's important to teach your kids to not do that, to greet dogs to ask to greet dogs properly, and teach them how to do it. You always want to show a closed fist, let the dog sniff you first, and then never pet above the head, because that usually could intimidate a dog, which could cause that fearful trigger reaction where they could actually bite.
And to always be gentle.
Always be gentle. Yes, you never want to like hardly pat a dog. Always gentle scratches, especially among the chin and chest. Those are usually, safe spots. You don't want to touch the tail. You don't want to touch their legs too much. She's comfortable being petted anywhere, so we can rub her everywhere. But some dogs aren't. So it's important to understand that and respect their space. So I think the last question I wanted to ask, in cases where a dog has bitten someone, what steps should owners take to prevent future incidents and ensures the safety of both their pets and pets owners? So this is after they have already had an incident. Like, what can they do to prevent a future incident?
So I think training is key. And besides training, also securing their pet. Making
Very
sure
important.
that, if they ever take them out in public, they are properly leashed.
Of course.
If they feel that
it is a law, by the way.
Yeah, it is the law. And also, if they feel that the dog needs to be muzzled, then, but I think training will go a long way. You have to be mindful. Once there is a bite report and it's been reported to us, there's other measures that we take, such as they have to register their pet. Right. If it's been declared
as dangerous. Correct.
But again, that's for a case.
That's if an investigation is initiated. However, there are those rules that get set into place, and they are laws that you would have to follow if your pet is declared as dangerous. So to avoid getting to that point,
I think, yes, training your pet, keeping them safe, always having them leashed, and mindful of your surroundings at all times.
Alrighty. Well, I think that's all we had for this. I do want to wrap up with going back to the events. Yes. So we do have an event coming up soon where if somebody's interested, they can adopt Gracie as well. But tell us more about the event for next Saturday.
So next Saturday, we will be hosting an event at our old facility at Medley, 7401 Northwest 74th Street. And it's all large dogs, such as Gracie. They're all great dogs. They're ready to go. They've been sterilized, vaccinated, and you can come and, you can have a one-on-one meet and greet so you can get to know the pet, see if it's a great fit for your home, for your family. And hopefully we will get all those dogs adopted to a great home.
Hopefully.
They need to go home. They need to
Yes.
find a home.
Yeah, we really need to find the pets at the Medley facility a home. That event is going to be from 1 to 5, correct?
1 to 5.
And we've been having this event recurring every third Saturday of the month.
Yes.
So this is our March Medley event. That's what we're calling it. It's right before St. Patty's Day. So go find your lucky charm there.
By the way, we will have a lucky charm.
Of course, yes, we do have a special guest, a lucky charm, who's actually just recently gone to a boarding and training program, and we're very excited to see her come back because she will be available for adoption, and she is going to be fully trained now that she comes back. So that's really, really good. Thank you so much to I think it was Senator Ileana Garcia that enacted this. I guess it's an act or a law.
It's a program.
It's a program.
It's grant funding that she gave us, the Canine Better program.
Okay.
And it's to for our pets that might have behavioral concerns.
Right.
We send them to training. So
see, you guys heard that? Behavior concerned pets.
Adoptable.
Exactly.
It's all about making them adoptable.
Even our behavioral concerned pets, we try to see if we can, socialize them, almost like rehab them in a way to try and get them to find a loving home. But we hope to see you guys next week at the Medley event. We'll both be there. So we're hoping that the community will join us and come out and help find as many homes as possible for the pets at our Medley facility. So thank you so much, Gilda, for taking time out of your new busy routine to come by and chat with me. And we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.